I'm Sue Scott. I'm glad to be with Mark today and sharing hopefully some really good information with all of you. The back 10 feet idea has been around since about, oh gosh, when did I start doing that? Actually, around 2000. I was working for the city of Cape Coral, promoting Florida yards and neighborhoods, promoting going native. And folks started saying, well, we don't know what to plant. We don't know how to start. And I said, well, would you be willing to give up just the back 10 feet of that 80 by 125 square foot lawn to natives and make it a pesticide free, chemical free zone? And most people said, yeah, I just don't know what to plant. So we did a first plan for Lee County. And it was just basically picking those really bulletproof plants that can take it when it gets too cold, too hot, too wet, too dry, don't need any help, that provide food for birds and butterflies and all kinds of bugs and are enjoyable for humans. So I just kind of picked some no-brainers for my area. And then years later, when I was working at NBC in Fort Myers with Jackie Gomez, who wanted to do her own directing on the side, she said, Sue, what's your dream? And I said, I want my own garden show. She goes, let's do it. There's this thing called YouTube. And I went, what? And this thing called Facebook. And I'm like, what? And she showed me what was going on there. And I went, wait a minute, you mean we can put our own show out there? She said, yeah. So we did. And I did about, I think, 6-7 episodes. And it was all shot with one camera, her behind the camera, me in front. I'd go out on the weekends with a little bitty camera and shoot some extra video. And we'd edit it late at night after work. I mean, it was just crazy. So there's literally no budget for these shows. And it shows. Okay, there's no budget, no makeup, no wardrobe. It shows. But the information is good. I stand by the information.
We fondly remember you. Those of you who are around doing Google searches on Florida native plants back in 2014 and earlier, we didn't have a lot of information. Nobody was on social media thumping for native plants as they are these days. That was still a very new avenue to spread the message of native plants and conservation. And, social media back then was a very unexplored territory. These days, it's very saturated. But those of you who were, early on searching for information, where to start, getting some information to see, hey, I may be interested, but I really don't want to commit before I hear a second opinion. We remember Sue Scott. We do. We do. And we have very fond memories.
Well, let's show them. For those of you with Couplet Fern, I did Seminole Counties, one of the counties that I tried to create a back 10 feet plan for. Let's show it to them.
Yeah, and this is applicable for Central Florida also. So in case you're not in our small county, you can apply this to the Central Florida region as well.
And as I'm looking at the plan now, I realize, man, I stuffed those plants in there. I mean, you could literally, size down from there to a 50-foot wide plot. You could maybe just keep get rid of the beauty berries, keep everything else, or exchange for the Florida Privet one of the beauty berries, or vice versa. That's a lot of plant material going in there, but I'm allowing at least 10 feet in width for each plant. And it's important to understand that, this makes a really gorgeous living fence, by the way, which is what I did with my back 10 feet. There was an empty lot behind me. I knew it wouldn't be empty for long. And within 3 years, I went from plants that were a foot tall to plants that were 8 and 10 feet tall.
Yeah, folks.
It was a solid fence. I had so many birds and butterflies. I mean, it was awesome, guys. So
I didn't realize that. So you're absolutely right. Every plant, I would say, except for bird pepper, would make a pretty good fence. So rather than planting the same plant over and over again, if you wanted a privacy hedge, I didn't think about this before, but this BTF plan makes a very interesting, very diverse plant selected fence, living fence. That's great. Yeah, I did think about that. How exciting.
Well, especially for places, for those who can't afford it, fencing is expensive. Also for places like Cape Coral and these big, large suburban areas. Imagine if just half the people in a neighborhood or on a street did their back 10 feet like that. Now you've got 20 feet in width by 80 feet each time. Imagine that. You actually could create greenways throughout your neighborhood, throughout the country doing this. No
Yeah.
matter where you wouldn't that be amazing?
Wouldn't that be fun to see what it looks like after a hurricane? Like, for example, wax myrtle in here is so
Yeah,
hurricane resistant. So if you're
exactly.
using plants to replace fencing, imagine how much that could save you long term. We
And
have a
protect
fan
you.
that says
And
hello. This is
oh, hi,
Athena.
hi, Athena.
Yeah.
She's actually one of the co-owners of Two Ferns Native Nursery right here in Madison, Wisconsin.
Oh, really? I think
Yeah.
this Athena is actually here in Citrus County.
Oh, is it? Oh, I thought it was my Athena.
This is Athena Phillips, but she said hello.
Okay.
Yeah, we're huge fans. Athena probably remembers you from back in the day. I've known Athena for many, many years now. And like I said, you have fans from all over the country and here in Florida, your previous home, because of all the work that you put out in social media before social media really took off. So, yeah, we remember you. We remember you fondly.
Well, I want to bring up the point too, and maybe we start showing some of these plants, the beautiful pictures you have, is that after Hurricane Charlie, we actually did some traversing of the Cape. I was still working for the city then, and we were checking out those yards that had landscaping, especially native landscaping, and how those houses fared compared to those who had no landscaping. Because there was that mentality has been around a while. Well, if you don't have any trees, they can't fall on your house kind of thing. And what we found were that the homes, including my own, who had native landscaping around them, actually weathered the storm better. And I had on one side of my house a whole row of cocoa plum. And it's just amazing. First of all, it keeps the house cooler in summer. But my roof had about $1,800 worth of damage. Every house around me, literally next to me, behind me, beside me, had thousands of dollars in damage.
Yeah.
So, I mean, these plants will protect your home. They will protect you from the heat, from adverse weather conditions, from storms. They add value to your home. And when I do these plans, I'm picking the toughest plants, the plants that go, oh, it's a little cold, no worry. A little hot, no worry. Dry, no worry. Wet, I can take it. These are your bulletproof natives that anybody can grow. You do not need a green thumb. And please do not use any soil amendments or fertilizer or any kind of chemicals. So, and this is beautyberry. This picture is great, by the way, because this is one of the berries that is actually human edible. But I got to tell you, when the robins come through, they will just eat every single one, which is awesome.
Right.
But it's a wonderful plant.
It's a wonderful plant, and it's a great fruit bearing, or it's a drupe, and it has those late in the winter. If many of you have tried beautyberry like I have, it doesn't taste like much. The birds actually do like it because it provides fruit during a time of the year where fruit is very hard to find. So it does have, an ecological value by sustaining birds in particular, but also small wildlife when there's not a lot around for them to eat. Exactly.
Yeah, and it's just pretty when the bush is laden with fruit like that royal purple. It mix in when you mix it in with other plants. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah,
but so easy to grow.
So easy to grow, gets a little leggy, but you can always prune it down. Grows right back, multi-branched.
Yep.
And, in case you're thinking about this BTF plan for a hedge or making it into a hedge of your preference, remember that beautyberry will give that extra pop of color because many of the plants in the next few slides have
Yeah.
pretty flowers, but not this dramatic purple color. So think about color variation as well.
Good point. Let's see what else we got.
So your next one is bird pepper, BP, and you've written great for birds and you. So here's bird pepper.
Yeah, and it's so tiny, but like you were saying, Mark, I mean, this is a pepper that packs a punch. Okay, it is not for the faint of heart. It is a pepper, but when you take it and like squeeze it a little bit, mix it in with some of your favorite food dishes, oh man, it is good. And mockingbirds especially love that. Anything in the capsicum family, they love those peppers, and it's just fun to have a plant that we can eat and share with wildlife.
That's right. That's right. It's a bird favorite. I don't know. I don't understand it. So do you know why birds like it? It's so spicy for humans. Do they not just have the same
Exactly.
higher heat tolerance?
They don't, they have the tolerance. I guess it doesn't affect them the way it does us, but they have learned over time that those bright red colors and purples are usually good for them.
I see. I see.
So they know.
Athena writes, the more moisture, the taller beautyberry gets. I've seen it approach 20 feet. I believe
Wow. Of course, no, where I was in Southwest Florida, they rarely got that tall because it tends to be a little drier. I was on the coast. It was, a lot of soils were very alkaline. So that would often affect. So those things do affect the plant's ability to grow. I will allow you to prune your beautyberries. I'm not a fan of pruning, but I will let you prune the beautyberries back. You're allowed. That one thing.
Thank you for your permission, Sue.
Oh gosh. But yeah, these peppers are awesome.
Yeah, I wanted to throw this in. Many of you guys that are probably going to watch this later also, if you didn't know, Tabasco peppers are native to Florida too. So the Tabasco hot sauce that you're having is actually made from a native pepper. And compared to the bird pepper, this picture shows a ruler, a measuring stick alongside the fruit. So you can see that it is much more longer. And bird pepper, if we toggle back to the previous slide, is really small. So depending on what you guys want, if you guys want a more substantial crop, you guys can definitely pick Tabasco pepper. It is naturally vouchered here in Orange County and neighboring counties too. So it's present in Central Florida. Yeah,
awesome.
Just wanted to throw that little fun fact in there.
Good.
Your next plant in your BTF plan is EP, East Palatka Holly. Food, birds, nectar, and nesting. So here's the Palatka Holly.
It's a great plant, and it actually is one of those plants that I guess the tale is it kind of came into being on its own, literally in in Palatka County, and it's a beautiful beautiful small tree. It can get kind of tall, so if you've got power lines, you may want to swap it out for something else. But I have a friend, my friend Kay, who I started her on native plants in Fort Myers, and when she moved to the villages, she took most of her native plants with her, and they all survived, including an East Palatka holly I gave her, which is now about 25 feet tall. And it produces wonderful berries for birds. It just brings them in, and they love being in that plant. And it's really columnar too. So it doesn't take up as much width, just height, which is kind of cool, kind of like the Simpson stopper. But it's just this lush green, gorgeous plant. And I just love what it does for wildlife. And look at those berries. I mean, come on.
Yeah, but East Palatka holly is a hybrid between Ilex opaca and Ilex cassine, a Dahoon holly and a hybrid of Dahoon holly and American holly. And the defining characteristic is actually the leaf shape. So it is a natural hybrid, just like Sue mentioned, but it's the leaf shape that indicates the hybrid, aspect of this plant, a naturally
It's so
occurring.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And it does get that lush green, I mean, talk about a Christmas tree.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous. I love it.
I love it too. It's great bird food for sure. Great nectar plant as well. I didn't
Exactly.
know about hollies, how important of a nectar source they are until earlier this spring when I saw just large amounts of honeybees and other native bees utilizing the flower for a nectar source.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I didn't know that. But seeing is believing. And your next plant here is SP, scrub palmetto, food, habitat, and nectar.
Yes.
I'm sorry, no, it's Florida privet. I skipped ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. Oh yeah, there we are.
SP, Florida privet, food for
What are
birds,
we doing?
nectar, and nesting. So there's
Yeah.
Florida privet.
And that is a nice thick bush. And what's neat about Florida privet, it will stay 8 to 10 feet tall, and it will get 8 to 10 feet wide. Just this big, thick, round thing full of uh, again, from a flowering standpoint, maybe not as profuse as humans would like, but again, it's another one of those like our wild coffee that all the native bees love, and then it gets a fruit, small purplish blackish fruit that birds love, and it again, it's so indestructible and so thick and lush without any help from us. So that's one reason I really like it. Again, if you like that living fence idea, oh man, this is a good one.
I love it. I've never planted Florida privet. Does it hold up to pruning, excessive pruning? I've heard it makes great hedges. If you
It does, but again, I always say to people, why do you want to do that? Why do you want to butcher the plant? Stop trying to control everything and stop trying to make plants into boxes. Nature doesn't grow in straight lines. It just doesn't. So I would rather encourage people to understand that it gets nice and full on its own. If it gets too big, then you planted the wrong plant. So never prune for size or shape. Pick the right plant. If you need a small hedge, like just a few feet tall, you need to go with a dwarf, one of the hollies, a dwarf, or something like that. But please, or like a Mrs. Schiller's, Walter's viburnum, something like that. But please don't prune for size and shape. I'm going to keep touting that till the day I die.
Gotcha.
Let the plant be who it is.
Right. Your next plant is scrub palmetto, food, habitat, and nectar. So this is your stable Ectonia.
Yes, I picked that one because it has a tendency, hopefully, not to get as big as a saw palmetto, something like that, but with the same look. And it definitely has the look of Florida, which I like, that sense of place. Depending on the kind of landscape someone has, it really fits in well if you have a tropical kind of landscape that you want, but it can also fit in with those that look more northern. I mean, it's just one of those plants that does well no matter which way you go. And it's just so beautiful. I just think these truly native palms are they just add something. So I just kind of fell in love with it.
Yeah, and scrub palmetto, sable Ectonia prefers very dry sites. So if your soils are very sandy, you'll do well. And unlike the saw palmetto, it does not have those toothed fronds, the stems of the fronds. So you can get up and close without really worrying about, getting scratched or sliced. It's a very interesting plant. Not a lot of people have them in their yard, so it could also be a specimen plant.
Exactly.
These are the flowers, And for those of you who do not know, saw palmetto flowers, which are similar to this, they attract over 300 different kinds of pollinators. So they're
Oh,
very attuned to our Florida ecosystem, pollinator pathways, habitat, um, of course, great bear food, in case
yeah,
you live in bear country. Um,
exactly.
just an interesting plant to have. Many people
Yeah,
plant sable minor, which is also known as dwarf palmetto. And sable minor is also a very it's a specimen plant. People grow it because it's
yes,
very slow growing. Um, and it's just fun to say that I have a sable minor. So why not try sable Latonia as well?
exactly. Yeah, to me, it's just one of those neat plants. If you can have it and find a place for it, by all means do so. And like you say, for me, in choosing a lot of these plants, it's about how much work they do for how much wildlife. And and then when it comes to bees, we need to think beyond honeybees, which are not even native to North America. We need to think about those native bees. And having the right plants for them is really important.
Yeah, yeah. Did you see in the news today, Sue, about the Asiatic Hornet being possibly released into North America? The honeybee industry is scrambling because the Asiatic hornet predates on honeybee hives. So we
Oh,
may have
geez.
another invasive species uh, released here in North America, but to great detriment or danger to the bee industry.
Yeah, that's huge. And anytime humans try to fix things, boy, I tell you, I'm worried because we do so much damage, and we do so much damage with plants we bring in. And again, this is another reason to go native. The plant industry, without meaning to, but nonetheless, has brought in everything from jumping worms to I can't even begin to think. There's just so many, all these insects and worms and subterranean termites and everything that don't belong here, and they all came in through exotic plants.
Yep.
So let's behave more responsibly. Let's use more natives, more locally sourced plants, and stop all this nonsense. Okay, okay, let's do
Yeah, sure.
that.
So
Okay.
your next plant is Simpson stopper, great for birds and
Ah,
butterflies. And here's
and just a gorgeous plant.
um,
Look at that.
so
It's
this
it,
is the natural
go ahead.
shape of Simpson stopper, correct? This is how many of the other, for example, the Florida privet would also naturally look like. It's just like a mounding, big shrub or a small tree. It just mounds, multi-branch and with branches close to the ground. Is that the natural look for the privets as well?
Well, the privet, yeah, but for the Simpson stopper, typically the ones I've seen have been much more upright and columnar growing, which is why it can be really good for small spaces. And it tends to just grow more formal looking, more straight, tight, tall, more tall than wide.
Got
So a lot again, maybe conditions can certainly change how a plant responds. But look at those flowers; those come in spring and early summer, and the flowers are fragrant, which is why fragrance is in its botanical name. Um, so it's one of those really pluses for humans as well. But man, is it a magnet for native bees and just anyone who's a pollinator loves these things. And the leaves are small and they tend to, again, it has that more formal look. But look at the berries. I mean, this is what our mockingbirds, our blue jays, our cardinals, and so many other birds in Florida love. And they know this plant. I've told this story before, but I'm not making it up. When I planted one in my yard, in my back 10 feet, and the plant was only 2 feet tall, and there's nothing in my backyard. And I'm digging the hole, and I've got the plant, I don't know, 5 or 10 feet away from me, and I'm digging my hole, and I'm not making this up. Blue jay, a cardinal, and a mockingbird all showed up. And they're on the ground, and they're looking at the plant, and they're tweeting, they're talking, and they're looking at me, and they're looking at the plant, they're talking, and I'm like, it was freaky, really. But they knew what that plant was. I mean, it was just amazing. They were like, oh, yes, here's a good human. She's planting what we need. I mean, it was just amazing.
Yeah, I love the flowers and I love the fruit.
Yeah.
That's 2 for 1 in my opinion. Usually
And it smells good.
plants give either a pretty flower or a pretty fruit, but here you have both of them. Very catching and very it's got a natural ornamental appeal to it.
Yes. Yep, it's a good one.
And then your next one is wild lime, larval and nectar.
And also, if you want the neighbors and the neighbor's dog and the neighbor's kids to stay out of your yard, it's one of those plants that has spikes on it. So it's really good for stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it will hurt you. But which is great, because then it becomes a safe place for birds to nest. Because a lot of people think that birds only nest in trees, and most birds actually nest in large shrubs. So that multi-branching makes it easy for them to build nests. And a shrub like wild lime also provides safety. So it's safety for birds, it's food, it's nectar, it's just everything. And it's a larval host plant. So pretty cool.
Yeah, there's the caterpillar perfectly camouflaged, as you can tell. And then those are the nasty,
it's like
nasty little thorns that Sue just mentioned. So it is a thorny plant.
Yes.
So if you are planting in the right place, then this plant will be preferred as a protection hedge or a privacy hedge. But then also you'll see swallowtails visit the wild lime as well.
Oh,
now,
yeah.
people actually inquire what the wild lime fruit looks like, and it looks like this. So it's important to note that it doesn't give a lime, style fruit. This is what the fruit and seeds look like. So just be aware that when you plant wild lime, you're not planting for, it's like people think it's almost like a sour orange that you find sometimes, happening, like a wild orange tree that's not wild, but, planted way back when the first Spanish colonists arrived, and they find a sour orange in the woods. But it's not that. Wild lime is
no. No mojitos from this one.
That's right.
But it's great for wildlife. And again, I would put it in a corner, or near a corner. And like I say, my choice in plants here is based on what wildlife needs more than what we need. And our benefit is the joy we get from knowing we've created safe, clean, healthy homes for all this wildlife.
Agreed. And your last one is wax myrtle, and it says berries for bird. So this is a very formalized, shaped look for wax myrtle, but in my opinion, it's multi-branched. It almost takes the look of this picture right here in the wild, but you can prune it to look more like this. However, Sue does not recommend so much pruning.
Well, here's where I'll back off. Is if you need to walk under something, you can prune up, but you never want to prune down. You don't want to squash a plant. But you can lift it up. I've actually seen people also do this with cocoa plum and with firebush. And it is a lot less detrimental to the health of the plant if you're simply limbing a few branches up as it grows versus trying to squash it down. So I'll let you do this because, and what's neat about wax myrtle, first of all, it has a berry that we make bayberry candles out of, but it's almost the only food that the yellow rump warbler depends on when they migrate through Florida.
Really?
So if all the wax myrtle is gone, what are they supposed to eat? Yeah, they depend on that berry. So here's your chance to help a species of little tiny warbler make it through the winter by putting in one of these plants in your landscape.
Yeah, and wax myrtle, guys, extremely hurricane wind resistant. So if you are living on the coastal areas and you have high wind events, consider wax myrtle. Good plan.
Definitely. And what's neat too about wax myrtle is it can get really wet and go back to dry and it's fine. And that tends to be true with a lot of plants. Like plants that can take wet can sometimes go dry, but typically dry plants can never go wet. So think about that. Think about the drainage in your backyard. If you have drainage issues, this is a great plant to have because it'll soak up all that water and then go back to dry and be just fine.
Yeah. The fruit is really small. Sometimes people try to make candles out of the fruit, and the return on that is very low. So you need a lot of fruit from many plants in order to make a really small candle. So I wouldn't recommend that unless you are very intent on making a wax myrtle candle from the wax of the fruit. It has a very low rate of return when it comes to this wax. Sue, we covered it all here. If you would like to just kind of give me a synopsis of how you came up with the diagram, what the size of the circles mean, the quantity of plants, because I see 2 beauty berries, I see 2 East Palatka hollies, but I only see 1 wild lime and 1 wax myrtle. And then I see it's 80 by 10, so that kind of falls into the back 10 feet of somebody's backyard. Just give me if somebody was just looking at this chart or this graphic, how do they interpret it right off the bat?
First thing is most plants are going to take at least 10 feet in width per plant. Some are a little smaller than others, some are bigger, but you're going to allow at least 10 feet of width, which means you're going to plant them on 10-foot centers. In other words, if you look across the EP, WM, SS, SS, WL, EP, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, that's 60 feet right there. And basically a couple of them, you notice a couple of the circles are a little bigger. You might want to give them 12 feet of width at least. And then you can tuck in maybe a couple of beautyberry behind a couple of the smaller width plants. And that's where that comes from. The idea is every plant you've got to allow at least 10 feet of width for. And people will, if you plant 10 feet on center, when you first put them in and the plant is only like 2 feet high, you're going to think I'm crazy. And you're going to say, I don't have enough plants. But trust me, within 3 years maximum in Florida, that will be a solid hedge. And you actually want to pull back at least 6 feet from your property line, because what you want, don't forget, plants grow in 3 dimensions, not just in height. They also grow in width all the way around. And what you don't want is your neighbor pruning your plants when you don't want them pruned, I mean. But if they're in his yard, he has every right to do so. So the idea behind this is to keep it as simple as possible. If some of the plants native width, natural width is a little less, you can squish them in a little closer, but basically always allow at least 10 feet per plant. And then if some are a little more columnar or looser, they can tuck in, like the beautyberry. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. You could tuck a beautyberry in tighter to another plant and it'll just find the spaces that it can and still berry. But then when it's not in berry and it's a little bare, you don't notice. So the design is just as simple as I could make it.
Smart. I love it. And I'm assuming where the BP is, that's where the foreground is, and then the beautyberry is in the background. So you've also thought about height and progression of height, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So the
Yep.
larger circles here will give 12 feet for. The SS, which is the Simpson stopper, will give 10 feet for.
Mm-hmm.
And the
Yep.
blueberry can take about 8 feet, I would assume, and then the bird
Sure.
pepper we can do 4 feet. So
Exactly. You're thinking correctly. It's just, the bigger the circle, the wider give it more width. If it's a little bit smaller, you can tuck it into tighter spaces. And with a plan like this, man, you've got a solid fence. You could actually go thinner than what I have there and still have a really good, solid fence in 3 years.
beautiful, yeah, and it's a bird-loving fence.
Yes,
It definitely
they
is.
will. They will come. I mean, plant it and they will come. It really is that simple. When we put out the buffet in a safe way, and keep in mind, you don't have to clean these bushes. This is a bird feeder that never needs cleaning. It's a bird feeder that never needs replenishing. It replenishes on its own. The plants are doing different things at different times of the year. So basically, you have 365 days a year of food for birds, food for pollinators, housing, uh, air filtration, water filtration, and just all kinds of things. Oops, let me get that out of the way there. Without just by planting the plants. And again, you don't need fertilizer. You don't need any soil amendments. What you want is for these plants to grow into the soil that they're in. So you let them go out into that soil to find what they need, and they'll be just fine.
We have a couple of questions from our viewers. Athena writes, Simpson stopper does have a lot of fruits that sprout at the base if you don't eat them first. I didn't know Simpson stopper was edible, but okay, Athena, I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, so will I.
Leah S. writes, which of the plants have you discussed on the list that need to be away from the house, as you were saying? So which ones on the BTF plan right here are away from the house? So I'm assuming bird pepper is closest to the house, and then the the beautyberries are
Away. Yep.
away. Yeah.
Yeah, basically, you're looking at your backyard in the distance, the back 10 feet of your yard. So the house is located where all the writing is. And you're looking to the end of your backyard. And the BBs, the beautyberries, are the closest to your property line. And the BP, the bird pepper, is closest to you sitting on your porch looking out into your back 10 feet.
Mm.
So that's how each plan is designed. It's the back 10 feet. So you're sitting where, like I say, all the writing is, looking out to the end of your property.
Understood. Understood. So, folks, if you're joining us from around the state, I'm going to take you over to Sue's website right now, where you guys can find BTF plans for your county. So we're at the back 10 feet with SueScott.com. And then where you see more right here in the top right corner, just click on that. And then you'll have a drop down where it says BTF plans for Florida. So in case you are not quite, sold on, for example, wax myrtle or privet, you can find different ideas and inspirations based on either the county that you live in. They're all designated in an orange box in the top right corner. Or you can skim through and see different suggestions that will work for your county as well. So, for example, if you are in Miami-Dade County and you have snowberry, chances are that it will also work in Martin County. So snowberry will definitely work here. So if you are looking for a varied palette, if you have specific preferences, Some people that I know shy away from wineline because it has thorns. They don't want it too close to the house, or because they have kids or pets, etc. Then they may not choose wildline, but you can definitely choose some other plant in here. But this is a
Yes.
great resource. And Sue, how did you come up with such a robust, uh, you know, selection? And I can guarantee you that you were doing this before other people even conceptualized something like this. Was there a need out in the community that you were addressing, and you felt, hey, this is what I can do. Let me put this out.
Yeah, basically, when I first started, I was concentrating on Florida. So I hit up all the southern Florida counties is as far as I got. But the idea was to find pretty much bulletproof back 10 feet for all the counties near me. And I did a lot of research. I went to the Atlas. I went to a lot of different resources and did some ground truthing, not just the books. Because sometimes the books will say something and that ain't quite how it is in real life. So, yeah, I spent a lot of time, and then I tried to verify that the plants I was choosing were it, most 90% of them are native, truly native to that county. And if they're not native to the county, they're native within a county to that region and still do well there.
Yeah.
So I was really trying to pinpoint natives, almost like natives for your neighborhood, where whatever county you're in, there have been verifiable herbarium species documented for many, many years in your county. So I did a lot of research.
That is awesome. What year was the very first BTF plan made in?
You mean when I did the first plan?
Yes. When was
I probably did first plan by about 2002, and we were using it in our classes that I was teaching at the city of Cape Coral then at Rotary Park called Florida Yards and Neighborhoods. And I was teaching the class with Kathy Loyola, and Kathy was involved in environmental services. So there was her and Craig and Connie, and now Harry's there, and Honey is at Rotary Park with Katie Lachlan, and they're still teaching, and Mary Ann Parsons, they're all still teaching the class that Kathy and I started, and we went a little crazy. Florida Yards and Neighborhoods is about reducing your chemicals, and we never taught it that way. We said, no, you don't need any. Let's knock that off. So we tended to be a little guerrilla in our tactics, but again, it came out because someone said, I just don't know how to get started. I want to do something and I'm scared to do anything. And I said, if I give you a plan, will you do it? And said, yeah. I said, okay, I'm going to give you a plan. And that's how it started.
I love it. I love it.
Just to get people to do something, pick up the spade, pick up the shovel, buy a plant, and just put it in the ground, and don't worry so much about it. I think sometimes we have a tendency to, want to space things perfectly. Well, does nature? No, just do something. Just do something, and it'll all work out.
Sue, do you want to touch base on this interesting BTF plan? You even address patios or balconies.
And that is based in South Florida. But yeah, I just wanted people to know you could start with pots. And I'm not the only one saying that. Christopher Walls is with, which chapter is he with? He's on the East Coast too, a little south of you. Great guy. He's always got these things on YouTube about making a pot, like put 3 natives in a large pot. You can put a salvia and a vine and something else. So my idea was there's no excuse not to do something, at least one plant. And people say, well, what difference does it make? Well, to the one butterfly who lands on your plant, it's the whole world. It's the whole world. Okay. Let's keep that in mind. President Kennedy had a wonderful saying many years ago when he was promoting the Peace Corps. And that was, you cannot save the whole world, but you can save a little piece of it. So this is my way of saving a little piece of the world.
Yeah.
And now we have people like Doug Tellamy saying, and he's an entomologist, this is a scientist saying, yes, what you do in your yard matters. And when you do stuff like this, you alter history, for gosh sakes. You make a difference. And I just can't promote that enough. You make a difference every time you do the right thing.
I love it. Matter of fact, this one right here is applicable to Central Florida as well. Even though you have it for a South Florida patio or balcony, you have blue-eyed grass, which is naturally vouchered in Central Florida as well. So you have a blue circle here, which basically means it's a pot, and it's all taken up with BG, blue-eyed grass. And then you have another pot, and you have Black-Eyed Susan, Rudbeckia hirta, which is also naturally found in Central Florida. You have SW, which is spiderwort. So you can have spiderworts in there and a Black-Eyed Susan, and it should work. So this patio,
you can either keep your pot wet or dry.
Balcony plant will work here.
Whoop, Mark, we lost you for a second.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Oh, are you there, Mark?
I am.
Oh, yeah. Can you hear me now? I know. But yeah, the idea is, with a pot, you can go wet or dry, right? You can create a mini wetland in a pot if you don't have drainage. I'm just saying, you can do so many things in a small space. You really can.
How fun. This is
it is.
Yeah. Sue, this is awesome. Thank you so much for putting this out. Share by the sheer goodness of your heart. And I know you're up in Wisconsin now, but if folks, if you're interested in checking out her website, she is also active with Wild Ones up in Madison. But she has different resources. You can click on more. Click on resources, and she's always updating these things.
Yep.
It's just fun. I mean, you always want to read about what other people are doing with natives in their neck of the woods.
And also, if you go to the website, there are also buttons you can press to go to the YouTube videos, which are kind of how-to videos, and also to go to the Facebook page. And what I like about Facebook is when you go there, you can, I'm sharing stuff from all over the country, from California, Texas, Maryland, Virginia, Florida, you guys a lot, from Fan, from Washington State. I'm sharing information from all over the country, but information that's good tends to apply no matter where you live. So and if there's a plant sale going on, I'm sharing it so that somebody can go. You know what I mean? It's all about making sure that all the resources, no matter where you live, you can access something. So yeah, I like to do that.
Thanks for being a proponent for Native Plant Society. I just see your post here that you promoted Lake Beautyberry chapter as well up in Lake County.
Oh yeah.
That's wonderful. Is that an
and like I say, if anybody's having a plant sale, man, I'm on it. And what's really cool now, even with the pandemic, is that so many chapters like yours are finding ways to do curbside pickup, to do plant sales safely, so people can still do good in their yards. Even if we don't have the camaraderie that we once had, we can still get those plants. We can still get them in the ground. There's no time like the present. And again, there's that old saying, the best time to plant a tree was 50 years ago. The second best time is today. Just do it. Come on, people. Do something. And here's another idea, and I like this idea. If you have a friend or a neighbor who maybe can't take care of their yard like they used to, or they're older, do a pot. Get a nice large pot. Go to a thrift store. Support your local Humane Society thrift store. Get a pot or a couple, and fill it with some native plants that provide color and joy, that will bring in the butterflies, and put it on their porch for them, on their front steps, wherever. Make that your present to somebody. If you want to give a present to a family member, give them a gift certificate to the local like Biosphere Nursery or Green Images, they all have gift certificates or papers you can get. There's so many ways you can fill someone else's life with these life-sustaining plants. There's so many ways to do it. So please don't just do it for yourself. Do it for a neighbor. Do it for a friend. Do it for a relative. Let's change the world. Let's do it today.
Agreed. It's
Yeah.
smart for you to gift somebody a native plant. So in case you want to pot a few of those plants up and gift them to your neighbor that lives close to you, that's a very good idea. And Sue touched on supporting small businesses, your local businesses.
Yes.
So you can gift them gift certificates for businesses that are open right now. They are not open for kind of perusing through their nursery, but they're still open where you can do pickup and you can call ahead for your orders. So,
and they have the ground truthing in your neighborhood to know what is the best plant for you to use. If you say, well, I only want one that gets 4 feet high, they'll find one for you. I have very dry soil, they'll find one for you. Let your native nursery help you. These folks really know their job.
yeah.
They know what they're doing. Tell them what you're looking for, and I guarantee you they can find a native plant to fill that spot. I know they can.
Agreed. And if all else fails, you have the BTF plan for your county.
It's a way to get started. It's a way to get started. And what I know is this: once people start and they see the change, yeah. Oh, they're going to do more than just the back 10 feet. You betcha. And look at that picture. That little brown blob was actually a little brown bat at Owen Park here in Madison, Wisconsin, last October. Yeah,
Yes.
right there.
Right.
He was this big, an inch and a half long. Absolutely adorable.
Yeah, and folks, if you haven't checked out YouTube, she is on YouTube, and it's called Back 10 Feet Susan Scott. And it's right here, and you can subscribe to her. She has some videos, and she was the forerunner of social media back when starting out. We didn't know where to go, and listen from somebody who has tried it and see what their opinion of that specific plant is. So here's Sue, and she used to work for a local nursery in South Florida. And
Native Garden Center. I love John. He's a curmudgeon, but he's a good guy. And here's another thing I really want to quote here. On the bottom left, you'll see a picture of Dick Workman. And Dick Workman was one of the founding members of the Florida Native Plant Society. He also wrote the first native plant book, Growing Native. And he's no longer with us. But I'm so glad I did that interview with Dick, because that's priceless. He was just a wonderful human being. He really was. And it was Jackie Gomez who created this open for us and everything. And yep, again, all done with no money, folks. And there's Dick. Yeah. But yeah, so that's what I hope a lot of you will watch, because he is a founding member of the Florida Native Plant Society, as you guys now know it.
Mm-hmm. Well, very good, Susan. Thank you so much for doing this for us. If there's any two things that have popped up in your mind for today's webisode, what would they be?
Just do it. Just do it. I mean, I can't say that often enough. Do something. A pot, a piece of your property. I rent, and I'm still adding natives and doing good things here. You can. You're allowed to ask, do. Yeah. Just number one, just do something.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. It's been an hour of fun, interesting.
That's enough.
for now. We'll carry on again. Sue, thank you again from the bottom of my heart for all you do for our community, even though you moved away. This is an excellent way for you to impart your knowledge that you had accrued here in Florida and still spread the good word about Florida native plants.
You betcha.
All the way from Wisconsin, all the way from Madison. So thank you.
Yep.
All
And
right.
thank you, Mark. And I hope everyone at Couplet Fern knows what a great job you're doing. And if you're not currently a member, one of the best ways you can help preserve the real Florida is to join your local chapter of the Florida Native Plant Society. Your money is well spent. It does a lot of great things. So I really hope if you haven't joined yet that you'll do so.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. All right. We will see you
Hey.
some other time. We'll see you
Okay.
next. Is that right, Sue? You want to do this again next month and talk about something else?
We'll try to get together in a month. Maybe it'll be 2. I got a lot going on here too. I got to catch up on some back 10 feet stuff. But yes, we will do this again. And as John Sibley would say, get real, go native.
All right, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you for joining us.
All right. Bye-bye.